Okay, Madge.
Restraints are only used when resident safety is jeopardized, and all measures have been tried to help with safety concerns. It is important to understand that restraints are a last resort method for resident safety. In LTC, the reality is that some individuals need to be restrained because of safety concerns. Restraining a resident places them at increased risk for care that is not resident-centered. Therefore, it is important to look at how to maintain resident-centered care when restraints are being used. More importantly, laws and regulations are very strict regarding the use of restraints, and it is the team's responsibility to ensure that proper care and documentation are done to ensure the restrained resident is receiving the best possible care.
Here, Madge. Let me help you. Let me help you.
Get the hell out of here. I don't need you. I don't need you. I don't know what you're doing here. I can manage perfectly well on my own without you.
Madge, I know it must be very difficult for you because I heard that and read in your chart that you were very independent before you came here.
Whatever happens, I shall be perfectly all right. Thank you. Just go.
What do you want to be like, Madge?
Useful like I used to be, and not strapped into this chair.
Well, Madge, after your stroke, you tried to get up and walk on your own, and you fell, and you hurt yourself. So that's why we have to put the tray back on your chair, just to keep you safe. Just to keep you safe, that's all.
What can be done to ensure that Madge's care is resident-centered? What did the caregiver do that was resident-centered? What could the caregiver have done better?
Jane, Madge is having some trouble with her restraints, and I wondered if you could give me some pointers as to how I could help her.
Yeah, restraining someone is a very serious act because when you do that, it takes away a person's freedom and autonomy. So it's usually done as a measure of last resort. And when it is done, it's really important that we look at proper documentation as well as frequent checks to kind of maintain that contact that they have. Madge's case it's a difficult one because I don't know if you know this or not, but previous to coming in here, she was a very independent person. She ended up having a stroke and tried to go home and wasn't able to live independently, which led to her being admitted to long-term care. So she's dealing with multiple losses right now. She's dealing with the loss of her home, the loss of her freedom, and also a loss of sense of self.
Now, is there anything specific that I can do, Jane?
There is. We want to make sure that care is person-centered. So it's really important to know, like, what are things that Madge likes? What are her personal preferences in terms of where she wants her things kept or how her routine is? If someone's unable to, like, is confined to a wheelchair and unable to meet their own needs, it kind of becomes up to us to meet those needs for them. So can you imagine what it would be like if you needed someone to pass you Kleenex to blow your nose or to have to, like, untie you so you could actually use the bathroom? They really do have that loss of control a lot of times. So it's really important when we do go in that we do engage in a conversation that has meaning and it has purpose for them. As well, when we go in to do the monitoring for the restraints, it is important to reposition them so they don't get skin breakdown or sores occur, but equally important is releasing the restraint completely so that they have that sense of freedom. They don't feel so confined all the time. It gives them a break from being in their restraint. I also understand that if residents are engaged in activities that they enjoy or have meaning to them, even though they're still restrained, they're not so focused on that part of their day because they're engaged in something else. So we need to kind of talk to Madge and figure out what kind of activities she would like to engage in.
Well, Madge seems to be most agitated right after breakfast when she's bored. And the other time we've noticed it is when people are putting on the restraints. I guess they're not explaining what they're doing. So we are going to call in the recreation staff to come and do an assessment on Madge.
That's a great idea.
What members of the care team should be involved in Madge's care? How could Madge be involved in planning her care?
Madge, how is everything going for you now?
Well, I think it's rather going downhill. Ever since my stroke, things have never been quite the same. And it's making life very difficult.
You've had a lot of changes in your life recently, and very difficult ones. Perhaps we should take a look at the recreation programs, and we could go through them and find out which ones you like and which ones you don't like.
Well,
let's start with the ones that you don't like.
I don't like bingo. Unfortunately, people seem so attached to it, and it seems to overwhelm all the other activities. So if we could find other things for people to enjoy and be interested in,
Okay,
I think we should.
Bingo is definitely out. Now, I see on your rec assessment that you used to work in a library.
Oh,
Yes. As you can see, ours is quite a mess here, and I was
Yes.
wondering if you might be interested in looking after the library and getting it organized. We have quite a few.
I would love to do that.
Good. We have quite a few youth that
yes,
could help you,
yes.
and they're volunteers, and maybe we could set this up and.
Do you know, I think if I came into the library each day after we've really gone through it and set it up, then if I came in here each morning, I could keep it in order and make sure that it served our purpose so much better.
Well,
but we are very fortunate to have the library.
We'd have to bring in the youth volunteers to help you out with the higher items, the higher books, and putting things away. But I think we could arrange this. Let's say maybe Monday we'll meet together, and I'll introduce you to the youth volunteers, and we can set up a program for you and them to do.
That sounds wonderful.
What elements of resident-centered care caused the change in Madge's mood? What information needs to be shared with other members of the team? How could this information be passed on?
Well, Madge, I think maybe we could meet on Monday with the youth volunteers and get the library all planned out.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yes, yes, yes.
Well, you're still talking.
Indeed.
Well, I think maybe we might be finished here now, so we found something that Madge likes to do, and that's going to be really good.
Good.
So I'll leave you two.
Okay, Madge, I think it's time for you to get out of your chair and perhaps go to the washroom.
Resident-centered approaches to restraint use. When residents are using restraints, it is important to check on them frequently. Frequent checks allow you to ensure residents are safe and have everything they need, as well it demonstrates to the resident that you care and are concerned about them. Every 2 hours, restraints need to be completely released, the resident needs to be repositioned, and the resident's response needs to be monitored. Residents have identified that being periodically released from their restraints provides them with a sense of relief and control. It is important to engage residents in activity that has meaning to them. Doing so helps reduce agitation and anxiety that may occur because a restraint is on. Always talk to the resident when putting on restraints. Doing so allows the resident to understand and prepare for the restraint use, As well, it takes the focus off of the task and places it onto the resident. Remember, restraints are always a measure of last resort.